Boom! And we are live. I am joined by Jordan Foote, Sports Illustrated, Kansas City Chiefs, but really part of the inner circle, friend, colleague. How are you doing, my man?
Max, I'm good, man. Thanks for having me back on.
Of course. Absolutely. It's always a fun time. I don't mean to try to sound like Bruce Buffer when I say boom and we're live, because I just realized I may have tried to sound like an announcer. Bruce Buffers are one of a kind. Both the Buffers are amazing. But before we dive into this NFL special episode, Jordan, I have a curveball at you
All
because
right, let's hear it.
you're an NBA guy also. So I'm like, man, this just happened. I haven't talked about it on the podcast yet, so let's get right into it. Giannis Antetokounmpo just signed a 5-year, 228 million dollar contract, record-breaking deal. I had to throw this theory at you that I've had for a while. Tell me if I'm crazy, and then your thoughts on Giannis staying. I put this out a couple months ago, and I brought it back up on Twitter. You know, Twitter's everything now, so follow me,
Yeah.
Max Van Auken. And I wrote this list of all the young players, and I'm like, man, I think a lot of them are going to stay. I'm like, I think Trey stays in Atlanta. I'm like, I
hmm
think Luka stays in Dallas. I'm like, I think Giannis stays in Milwaukee. And I kept going down the list, and I'm like, man, I think a lot of these younger players are going to stay, and it's a copycat league. So I said, I think loyalty will become the trend in the NBA with Giannis staying. Is my theory making sense, or am I still a little crazy on that?
Yeah, no, bro, it makes perfect sense. Well, especially with like these star players, like their teams won't be bad for as long. Like the Hawks were bad for a year or so. They're not going to be bad anymore. Like they're going to be a playoff team. The Mavericks with Luca, they're already a playoff team. Like a lot of these guys who are young coming into the league, they're so good that they're making their teams great. Like Anthony Davis, I expect him to stay with the Lakers, even though he doesn't really fit that quote unquote young like categorization anymore. But Giannis,
Yeah,
I think it also depends on like where they are with their contracts. Also, like because Giannis was a late bloomer per se, but just because he came into the league so young, like he
right.
was just such a young raw player that of course he's gonna like stay with the Bucks who rewarded him for all of his hard work. So I don't think it's a crazy take at all.
I appreciate that. Now, him staying with Milwaukee, I had to actually I had the opportunity of interviewing him when I was covering the Magic, one of my favorite interviews.
hmm
And you could just tell he's just a very humble, hardworking guy who just wants to be the best basketball player. And that's what I absolutely love about him. But the elephant in the room, he's trying to be an all-time great. In order to be an all-time great, consider the where he's trying to be. Not
hmm
he could be an all-time great and never win a championship, but to be considered or trying to be a top 10 player of all time, top 5 player of all time, you need to have championships.
Yeah.
Does this hurt his chance of being that all-timer by staying in Milwaukee?
I mean, maybe like if he went to a team like Dallas next summer with Luca, obviously you would think that they'd be penciled in for at least one or two championships. Like if he
Right.
went to Miami, you would think they'd be penciled in for one or two. But it's not like Milwaukee sucks. Like it's not a LeBron Cavs situation where they just could not surround him with a great team. He had some players with him, but just not a great team to start off. Like they're making moves. Like even though the Bogdanovich thing fell through, Drew Holiday's no slouch. Like Chris
Yeah.
Middleton, yeah, Holiday's no slouch. Middleton's a good player. They added some depth, so I think they're going to be in the conversation for the next 5 years. And really, as a star player, that's all you can hope for.
Right. I think um, the front office, to your point, is really aggressive, but I think what's going to end up hurting him in the long run is Milwaukee a free agent destination? And it's
Yeah,
like, hey, your front office can only do so much. At some point, these free agents have to say, hey, do I want to take me and my family to a city like Milwaukee? And that's a hard thing
hmm
to do. But if they do see the progression of Milwaukee, they do see the success, it's much easier to persuade someone that normally wouldn't go there.
yeah, absolutely. Personally, I didn't expect him to sign a full 5 year.
Yeah, that's
I
long.
expected I expected like a 2+1 or 1+1 or something
Right.
like that where he could see what moves they make over the next few years and then decide whether he wants to stay. Like 5 years is a long time in the NBA and he's what 25, 26. So
6.
yeah. So that's gonna take him through like into the majority of his prime and he'll still be in it when he gets his next deal. But this is big, like for him and for the Bucks.
Right. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Jordan, okay, so let's transition right into the NFL. We just had a awesome Baltimore Cleveland game.
hmm
I think you and I we did. When I saw your picks, I think you picked Baltimore to win that game.
Yeah.
Okay, and so obviously it was a high scoring game. It was like an amazing game for everyone to watch. It had everything you wanted. It had the ups, the downs, crazy plays, high scoring. Lamar leaves, then Lamar comes back, and then he has the game winning drive, but Baker scores too soon, so it gives
Mm-hmm.
them time. It was an amazing game. But one thing that I'm a bigger Lamar guy than I am Baker guy. I'm not a big Baker guy. I was a Sam Darnold guy coming out of college before I was a Baker guy. But with Lamar Jackson, I see how much criticism he receives. And I say expectations are everything. So he had an MVP season, so the expectations are super high for him. But if you look at what he's done, the amount of wins he's been able to produce with Baltimore, I think we need to start understanding what the expectations are and have more of a realistic approach and a fair approach for him. Do you think he's deserving as much criticism as he's received?
No. And like it's the same thing. This is the problem with all young players in sports. Like they of course have high expectations for themselves, but the media and other people put those expectations upon them. Like Lamar won MVP and everyone they ranked him the number one player in the league above Mahomes. So everyone's like, "Okay, now you have to be that
Right.
guy." When if they would have sat back and watched him play last year, they would know he's still far from the player he might become. Like
Right.
it was a big thing on Thursday when he did, or not Thursday, on Monday when he came back in and led that game-winning driver, picked up where McSorley left off, whatever happened. But that's something Lamar's gotten knocked on for a while is like late game situations, being able to be a quarterback in those times, and he proved he could do it. So I think of Zion in the NBA,
Oh,
where before the guy even played an NBA game, people were like saying he was the next LeBron or whatever. Like, we need to just
yeah.
stop this. We need to let them get their feet wet and see how they're doing. Because now people hate Zion because people expect him to be the next LeBron. Like, just watch him play and recognize what he is, not what he's supposed to be.
Yeah, expectations are everything. That's a phenomenal comparison because that's exactly what it's like. It's like if you actually watch Zion, if you took away the expectations, this would be my takeaway. Okay, one, leap off screen talented,
Mm-hmm.
just a beast. You cannot teach a freak of nature like that, but also needs to lose a little bit of weight.
Yeah.
And he needs to make sure he stays healthy. But if you go off the expectations, he's a bust already because he
Yeah.
isn't James' first year. So no, that is a phenomenal point. One thing I said about Lamar was I created this list a long time ago. It had like Michael Vick, Roy Jones, Anderson Silva, and Allen Iverson, leap off screen talented. So it was like the lost list. That was the
Mm-hmm.
abbreviation. I would put Lamar on there. I mean, but then I'd be like, you kind of have to put Mahomes on there too. But Lamar just has this thing, reminds me of John Morant, where it's just like everyone is at 80 miles per hour and his next gear is just 100. And he's just making
Yeah.
people like they're in slow motion. But the biggest criticism of him seems like, can he play from behind? And is he going to become a better thrower of the football? So if
Mm-hmm.
I were to ask you right now, are those things that you think he will improve upon, obviously, as his career progresses?
I think he will. I'm not expecting him to be like a Mahomes or a Rodgers or anything, or like even guys like Kyler Murray still have ways to go. Like Lamar's thing is he doesn't want to throw outside the numbers. Like he kind of just wants to stay in the middle of the field and get open looks and stuff like that. Like he's kind of and I don't know if he's taken a step back this year in terms of accuracy, but he hasn't taken a leap forward like I expected
Right.
him to. So, like, I think he will get better just because he's a hardworking kid and he has a good team around him. But I don't know what his ceiling is, but he's already a top five quarterback in the NFL. That's pretty damn good to start off just a few years in.
Right. Couldn't agree. Couldn't agree more. Let's transition to the Bucks. So you have Tom Brady. You have the Bucks. There's talk about expectations. I think everyone had two expectations for Tampa. Maybe 11-5, 10-6 type of season. Could be Super Bowl bound, possibly. And then you have the people that were, nope, not a believer at all. It's either you're one side of the fence or the other. What were your expectations for the Bucks going into this season, and where are they right now based off what you thought they were going to be?
They're exactly where I thought they would be. I mean,
Okay.
I expected them to be in the hunt for a wild card spot and end up getting it, which they're probably going to do. Like They have a great defense that shows up pretty much every week. They have so much talent on offense with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. Gronk isn't what he used to be, but he's still there. Like, here's my thing. When people saw Bruce Arians, who, first of all, the first year in his offense is tough for every quarterback he's ever had. Like, it's a complex scheme.
Yeah.
Then you take a gunslinging offense that thrives on vertical passing and stuff like that, and you take Tom Brady, who is not that guy at this point in his career, really never was, put him in that offense. Everyone was like, oh, they're going to the Super Bowl. They're going to be great. Pencil them in. Like, Brady's not that guy. And you have guys like Mike Evans who are deep threats. You have Chris Godwin who can be the intermediate guy. Like, of course they're not going to fit perfectly. They didn't have an off season because of COVID, really. So, I mean, this team is what people should have thought they were going to be. Like, the fit isn't perfect, but anytime you have that defense and you have Tom Brady, you're going to have a shot.
Right. Now, what is their identity? Like, if I were to ask you right now, what's their identity? And I think that's like the biggest question right now. And it seems like Arians can't even really answer it. What is their identity?
Their identity is being an inconsistent football team. Like the most, you don't know which version is going to show up. Like, is it going to be the one that beat the brakes off of Green Bay and made Aaron Rodgers look like a rookie quarterback? Is it going to be the one that showed up against the Chiefs where they kept it close? Or is it going to be the version that can't beat other teams? I just don't know.
Right. Yeah, it's so interesting. And obviously you have talent. Have the things that you want, but are you just an accumulation of talent, or are you actually going to become a football team who understands their identity and the direction they're trying to head in? And I think that's the point that's the problem they're trying to solve.
They remind me of some of those like Duke teams, or like really any big college basketball program where heading into the season they're like, oh, they got 3 top 5 recruits or whatever it is. And then like, that team's not going to win a championship just because they're a bunch of guys trying to like get theirs, and that the fit just isn't going to be there. Like, you can kind of, I say that the basketball gods won't let stuff like that happen. Like, I just don't think the fit is so important, and the culture of a team is so important. And if your quarterback and head coach aren't getting along and the pieces aren't fitting exactly together, you aren't going to win a Super Bowl.
Right. No, I completely agree. So my last topic for you before we get into our Week 15 picks is, if you had to give out the MVP right now, week to week, it changes, right? So, I mean, obviously someone can have a terrible week. The next week, someone can have a phenomenal week. It's like, oh, maybe he's not my MVP anymore. But if it were to end right this second, who is your MVP?
Oh, man, that's a tough one. Like, I really think it is pretty close. Like, throughout the whole season, it's been close with different guys. But right now, it's definitely a 2-horse race. Like, I don't care what happens the last 3 weeks. It's 2 guys fighting for it. So, man... First of all, shout out to Derrick Henry. Like, I would never give a running back MVP, but that dude is going off. Like, he deserves, I think, top 5 consideration or something.
For sure. Now, who's your 2-horse race?
Yeah, my 2 are Mahomes and Rodgers. I think that's definitely the top 2 right now.
Okay. Now, before you pick between those 2, am I right? Is this statistic or fact right? I heard that Russell Wilson has never received an MVP vote. Not one. How has Russell Wilson not received one MVP vote? That's ridiculous to me.
It's like a Drew Brees thing. Like, because Brees has never won an MVP, and Brees has had several, like, crazy-ass seasons. So I'm as confused as you are.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just because I'm high on Russell Wilson, but what he's been able to do with this franchise and what he's been able to create out of nothing at times, it's like, how does that not get one vote? I don't get it.
Yeah, he's a top 3 quarterback, maybe even top 2. Like, because Rodgers didn't have that resurgence until this season. Wilson's been consistently great for 9 years. Like, that dude is just, I think it's almost where people get bored of how good he is. Like, because he makes those flashy plays, but he can also kill you from the pocket and just be a cerebral, like, Peyton Manning type quarterback. So how he doesn't have one MVP vote, I literally got no clue, dude.
Yeah, he's just a phenomenal playmaker. So it's between Mahomes and Rodgers for you. If you had to pick, who are you going with?
I think I'd have to go Rodgers, man. Even a guy who covers the Chiefs and like I love Mahomes. He's great, but Rodgers has 6 more touchdown passes. The thing with like the counting stats are pretty close, and I don't really care all that much about the counting stats, but the supporting cast people bring up, Rodgers has the best offensive line in football. He has Devontae Adams, he has Aaron Jones. Like he does have a great supporting cast, but like come on. Patrick Mahomes has Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelsey, Sammy Watkins, Andy Reid, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Like he has just as good, probably better supporting cast. So I think that really it comes down to the last 3 games. But if Rodgers finishes with like 48 touchdowns and 5 picks, like how do you not give that guy the MVP, especially if he's the number 1 seed?
Right. Right. No, I don't think you could really go wrong saying either or. If you say Aaron Rodgers, I'm not going to flip out. If you say Patrick
Yeah.
Mahomes, the best player in football.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Pat's the best, so he's definitely going to be better either way. But I'd like to see not as much in the NBA. I think that it's a storyline award. Like the narratives in the NBA go crazy. Like this guy is battling this, came back from that. Like if a guy like Kevin Durant comes back and averages like 26, 7, and 5 a game, and the Nets are the 1 seed, like he'd be maybe the MVP just because of the narrative. But like with Rodgers, what better narrative can you have? Like second year head coach, 37 years old, hurt for a few years, everyone counted him out, and now he's having his best year. Like there's not much better than that.
No, yeah, that's a great point. And also I think it's not necessarily fatigue because I think it's still really early in Patrick Mahomes' career and we can't get enough of it, but it's like, okay, I'm starting to see people say, okay, the Chiefs are just great. Patrick Mahomes is great.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like it's fatigue of Patrick Mahomes, but I think it's already settled in, okay, this guy is great. And so it's easy to spot and something else that you didn't expect, like an Aaron Rodgers comeback. So it's almost easier to give that guy the award, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think so too. And like if the players voted, I don't know what it would turn out to be, but the players know that Mahomes is Mahomes and he's the real deal. But like voter fatigue is going to be a thing with him throughout his whole career. But the good news is he's going to be in contention for 15 years. Like every year, he's going to get at least one MVP vote or be in conversation. So if he doesn't win it this year, like it's one of those things with LeBron where in 20 years, people will look back and say, oh, LeBron only had 4 MVPs or whatever when he easily could have had like 5, 6, or 7. Like in the moment, it's not that big of a deal. Now down the line, it might be, but right now, I don't think people should be worried about it at all.
Okay. No, yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, and I always say that. It's like you look at it, was Karl Malone ever more valuable than Michael Jordan?
Yeah.
I mean, Derrick Rose, even though Derrick Rose had a phenomenal season, and people, Zach and I get into this all the time. I'm like, man, he shut down Derrick Rose in the playoffs, and he guarded Derrick Rose, like specifically, I will guard you, and he shut him down. LeBron was the MVP, so we always get into it. But all right, let's go Week 15 picks. Let's start it off. Green Bay versus the Panthers. I'm going to roll with Green Bay here. Aaron Rodgers, for everything we just talked about as the MVP. What are your thoughts?
Oh, you got to go Green Bay. And I forgot that Saturday Night Football was back. And now that I see that, I am extremely happy because that's super dope. And I forget that they do that. You got to go Green Bay, especially Saturday night primetime. Like, how can you not go with Aaron Rodgers doing that, especially against the Panthers team that, like, Teddy Bridgewater can't keep up with him. Like, simple as that.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. 49ers, Cowboys, who are you rolling with?
Man, this is a doozy of a game. Like, I don't want to watch this game. I don't think anybody really wants to watch this game, but I think I'm going to go with the Cowboys just because I think they're playing for more right now, and San Fran is, like, a better team somehow, despite all the injuries they've had this year. I think Dallas is still technically in the division picture, which is ridiculous that they're 4-9 and still fighting for that. So I think I'm going to go with the Cowboys in a close game.
No, I actually was going to say the same exact thing. I think it just means more, and I think they're playing for a lot more. And even though, like you said, it's not really a thriller game, it's not the type where you have to rush to your couch to watch. For Dallas, this is a very important game. So, all right, we're both in agreement so far. Green Bay, Cowboys. Now we go Bucks, Falcons. I'm going to roll with Tampa. Who are you rolling with?
Yeah, I got to go with Tampa. I think that they're going to round somewhat back into form. The Falcons are cool, and they're a team that's playing like better competitive football right now, but Tom Brady late in the season. It doesn't get much better than that. He's going to be back on his game, and I think they're fighting for that wild card spot and can't afford to slip up.
Right, right. Pats Dolphins, you're getting Brian Flores, Bruce Arians, both disciples from Bill Belichick. Oh, I'm sorry. Bill Belichick. And, yeah, my fault. So, yeah, you're getting Bill Belichick versus one of his disciples. Who are you rolling with? This is a tough one.
Miami's favored by 3. I'm going to go with the upset here. And I struggled with this for a long time, and I've been pulling for the Patriots all year. It's these last 3 games all come down to what you're playing for. And the Dolphins are obviously playing for something bigger, but Cam Newton's like playing for his life right now. Like,
Yep.
if he doesn't have a decent next 3 weeks, I don't know if he's going to be a starter next year. I don't know if he's going to have to be a backup, and I don't think Cam will ever take that type of role just because he knows how good he is. He can't retire at 31. Like, this is big for him, and I think that Miami's been banged up also, and they're coming off a really exhausting game against the Chiefs. So if they can get caught by a Patriots team that they're out of the playoffs, but they want to play spoiler maybe, I think that this is a game they could do it.
I'm in agreement with you. And also for everything you just mentioned, but also like when I feel like a team plays really hard one week, that next week they take a little bit of a dip, like you were saying.
Yeah.
And I think this is where we see the Dolphins take a little bit of a dip, and Belichick obviously doing what Belichick does. But I feel like Cam Newton is becoming the Carmelo of the NFL.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's like, are you going to be willing to accept a role that you're not used to accepting? But clearly, I don't think you are that guy anymore that you used to be or thought you were.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like a sad point in someone's career, but it doesn't always have to be sad if you make that transition, a smooth transition. Like right now, we look at Carmelo in Portland and we're like, we love seeing Carmelo in Portland. And he's made that transition really well, and he's benefited Portland. Do you think Cam will have that type of transition? I know you kind of already touched on it a little bit, but do you see him having that moment where he has to look at himself in the mirror?
No, I think that is a really good comp. Like, I was trying to think of a player in a different sport, and you nailed it with Melo. The thing that I struggle with is, as a quarterback, it's different than being a sixth man on a team, because if you're a backup quarterback, you might not see the field at all. And, like, I know that Cam still has enough talent to – the numbers aren't there, but also he isn't working with anything. Like, if you put Cam on a Chicago Bears team, that's a 9 or 10 win team and probably a playoff squad. Like with Allen Robinson, guys like that in that defense. So it's possible, but I don't know. Cam is just so, he's an enigma. Like, Cam is Cam. Like, it's not an ego thing, which people label him as having an ego. I don't think that's the case, but he's just like a larger than life figure that I don't think he's going to want to take a backup role when he still is technically in his prime, seeing guys like Matt Stafford, Matt Ryan play well into their 30s. He's only 31 years old, so unless his body is completely fallen apart, he's going to say he has years left.
Right. The Pats is just such a hard team to predict and understand this year.
Yes.
It's so hard to understand. So that's why making this pick was a little tough for me. But we transitioned to the Seahawks and Washington. I'm going to go with the guy who's never received an MVP vote, the Seahawks. Who are you rolling with?
Yeah, I'm going with the Hawks. I was going to go Washington until Alex Smith got hurt last week, and I was going to pick them for the upset. But even if he does play, I think that Seattle's going to have enough to do it. And Russell Wilson late in the year, it's kind of like a Tom Brady thing where you can like count on him to show up. And he's not really in the MVP talks anymore because of all the turnovers he's had, but I think he's still just as good of a guy as he was at the beginning of the year. So I think he's going to get that win against Washington.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, this one's really interesting here, Jordan. We have the Browns, the Giants. We talked about, actually, you know what? I won't even get into it yet. Who Browns, Giants?
I'm going with the Browns. I mean, Baker Mayfield has played a lot better lately, and he's done some stuff that I didn't expect out of him. Like, it kind of is an indictment on Baker, I guess, that they're building a team that needs the defense and the running game to do well in order to win. Like, that screams, I don't trust our quarterback to go out and win us games. Like, it screams that. Like, it's blatantly obvious. Like Matt Nagy calling plays for Mitch Trubisky that are extremely safe. That screams, I don't trust my quarterback to make it. You can tell. Like, there's unwritten things in the NFL you don't, like, just read the room and you can tell, and this is one of those things. So Stefanski knows his quarterback, and I tweeted like the first game of the year, Kevin Stefanski needs to know his quarterback. That was it. I was like, I'm just going to leave it
Yeah.
at that. And he does. He knows Baker, but the past few weeks, Baker's had to do some stuff for them, and it's worked. So I still don't trust him to do it when he needs to, but the sample size is getting bigger, and he's having more games like that. So I'm getting a little bit more confident in Baker each week.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. Now with the Browns Giants though, after a really, even though they lost, it's a really high game. He played
Yeah.
good football and they scored 42 points. So I don't know if he's going to be able to reenact that back to back.
Yeah.
That's why and the Giants play hard, and the Giants just got smacked by the Cardinals 26-7. So I'm getting a Giants team that just got blown out, that's going to want to play tough the next week. And I'm getting a Browns team, even though they lost, I feel like they're almost coming off a high because of how well he played. And so I want to call an upset alert, but I just don't know. I don't know because obviously Daniel Jones isn't playing.
Yeah.
This would be our first disagreement. I feel like I'll be crazy if I say the Giants upset.
Colt McCoy, dude.
Yeah. You know what? Let me not outthink it. I'm going to go with the Browns. I'm going to go with the Browns. So we'll go.
You got to trust your gut, bro. Trust
Dude,
it.
I'm just going to go for it then. You know what? I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to call it Giants upset, and then we're just all going to hear the uproar about Baker Mayfield. So that's
I like it.
Yeah.
Like you said, Giants are tough, dude, and they're playing for a division title, so it's not a bad pick.
Yeah. I'm going to go with the Giants upset, and you have the Browns. So that's our first disagreement. So now we go to the Steelers-Bengals. Let's not overthink this one. Steelers are going to run through the Bengals.
Yeah, like Pittsburgh, me and you are not very high on Pittsburgh whatsoever, but like the Bengals without Joe Burrow have no chance of beating them.
Yeah, that's a no-go. So now we go to the Chargers-Raiders. This is a very interesting game. Who are you rolling with?
Wait, hold up for a second. What do you think the line is for the Steelers-Bengals game? How much do you think Pittsburgh's favored by?
I think, wasn't it minus 11 or 13?
This is 13, dude. That's bad, and that's not even as bad as the game we're about to cover here in a couple minutes.
That's. I mean, the Bengals are just flat out awful, and the Steelers just off a loss. Yeah, the Steelers are going to go crazy.
Yeah. All right, what are we on now?
Chargers Raiders.
I'm going with the Chargers to pull off the upset, man.
Oh.
Yeah, I trust Derek Carr to be okay, and I think that the Chargers are due for like a winning streak of some sort. Like they're too good of a bad team to just keep losing games in epic fashion. And like they played the team last week who was the only team who could match them losing games in epic fashion. And that's the Falcons. Like that was two cursed franchises. So they got away with the win there. Justin Herbert, he hasn't been as good as he started off, but he's still pretty freaking good. So yeah, Herbert's the real deal. And I think they're going to pull it off.
Okay, well, I'm in agreement with you because I'm a big believer in Herbert. So I'm going to go with the Herbert over the Raiders, Chargers over Raiders. We're in agreement there. Then we go on to the Bills and Broncos. I'm going to roll with the Bills. Are you in agreement there?
Yeah, no, I'm a big Drew Lock guy, and I think that his performance last week could help him play better for the last few games of the year. But, like, the Bills are a couple fluke, like, embarrassing losses away, like that Hail Murray that the Cardinals had against them. Yeah. They're an 11-2 team without that. Like, the Bills are a really, really good team, and I don't think that there's any way they lose this late in the season to a team that isn't in playoff contention.
Very quickly, are you sold on the Bills as far as, like, top one, top two teams in the league? I've seen a lot of that recently. How high are you on the Bills?
Top 5, I think, and they're top 2 in the AFC. Like, I think they're the only team that is a real threat to the Chiefs come playoff time.
Okay. No, and I agree with that. I'm not as high on them as a lot of other people are. Like top 5 is realistic, but when I see them as a top 1 or 2 team in the league, I'm like, okay, I'm not going that far.
Yeah, and you never know which Josh Allen's going to show up. Like this year, it's been better and more consistent, but still, bad Josh Allen could show up and throw 3 interceptions in the first half of the playoff game. Then you're down 21-0 before you know it. So.
Yeah. No, I'm in agreement there. Bears Vikings. Who are you rolling with? This is a weird type of game.
Yeah, this is another game I probably will just skip over and not watch. But man, I'm going with the Bears.
Yeah,
I think that Trubisky's playing for No, I better not say that because if I say he's playing for his job, that means there's a chance they believe in him next year. And I hope to God there's
No.
no way they believe in
Yeah,
him. So
they're
I
moving on.
think, yeah, he's just going to be playing for something. I don't know what, but I'll go with Trubisky.
Okay, I'm in agreement there. Yeah, I'm going to go with Trubisky as well. So right now, the only disagreement we have is the Browns Giants game. So now we're heading into the Baltimore Jags game. I'm going to go Baltimore over Jacksonville. I'm assuming you're in agreement there as well.
Yeah, this is another one where I mean, there's really not even an argument for the other side.
Yeah. Then we go on to Titans Lions. Same kind of thing. I'm thinking, right?
Yeah, I mean, I like Detroit as much as the next guy, but Tennessee is another. Like, this is the week of playoff teams rounding into form, and Tennessee
Right.
is definitely one of those teams.
Okay, in agreement there. So that leaves us with the Colts and the Texans. Who are you rolling with?
Speaking of playoff teams rounding into form, I think the Colts are going to round into form, but in the wrong way and get
Oh,
upset by the Texans.
so you're going with Deshaun Watson with no help.
I'm going with Deshaun Watson with no help to pull off the spoiler upset of the Colts, who I don't trust Philip Rivers. Like, I don't trust him
Yeah.
as far as I can throw him, and I'm not a very strong guy. So,
Oh man. Now, see, I'm a huge Deshaun Watson guy, and this whole season has been just a heartbreak season for me because I hate to
yeah.
see a guy who's so talented have zero help. So you calling the upset, I like to see it. I would love to see it, but I'm gonna roll with the Colts. So that's going to be our second disagreement. If you are right, I would not be surprised with an upset here, though, just because the fact of how good Deshaun Watson is.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those things where like I've bet on the Texans, not literally, but I've picked them like a lot of games this year, and I'm just going to keep doing it until they finally prove me right for once.
Fair enough. Fair enough. We got the Eagles Cardinals. I'm going to roll with the Cardinals here. Kyler Murray to beat the Eagles. Are you sold on the Eagles and Jalen Hurts?
Uh, half sold. And like
Okay.
if they weren't playing the Cardinals, I would pick them, but Arizona is fighting for their season right now, so I'm gonna have to pick them.
Right. I think that's one thing that we've talked about a lot here on this podcast so far, just going through week 15, is just the timing of these games now.
Yeah.
Because it is week 15. What are they playing for? Like you said, playoffs coming up, so playoff teams are trying to hit that next gear, but then you have certain teams that are playing for more than others. It's a reoccurring point.
Yep, for sure, dude. I think that man, because Kyler ran like 13 times last week, so I don't know if the shoulder is better or that's just
Right.
part of the game plan now. But if that keeps going on, then Cardinals are dangerous.
Yeah, no, for sure. So now we go to the Jets Rams. Who are you rolling with?
17 and a half. This is the game that I was thinking of. Like the Jets are getting no respect whatsoever. Like I gotta go with the Rams. The Jets
Yeah,
are so horrible.
yeah,
It's
terrible.
bad.
They just want Trevor Lawrence at this point.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, no disagreement here. And then I think this would fair to say the game of the week. We have the Chiefs, we have the Saints. You're a Kansas City guy, so I'll let you take this one first.
Uh, I don't think Drew Brees is going to play, which I think is a good thing because A, I want him to be healthy, and B,
Right.
I'd rather face Taysom Hill. And the reason I'm picking the Chiefs, who are only favored by 3, which I think is a little disrespectful, that means Vegas is thinking that Taysom Hill can keep up with Patrick Mahomes for an entire game. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that is not going to happen. Like,
Not.
I will like I don't know what I would do if that happened. Like that is just ridiculous. I like Taysom Hill as a backup quarterback and a guy who can step in like he is right now, but to keep up with the Mahomes-led offense for an entire game, I just don't think it's going to happen.
No, in agreement there. I'm rolling with the Chiefs as well. So we have Green Bay, Dallas, Bucks, Pats, Seahawks. I'm rolling the Giants. You're rolling with the Browns, Steelers, Chargers, Bills, Bears, Ravens, Titans. Uh, you're rolling with the Texans. I'm going with the Colts, Cardinals, Rams, Chiefs. Those are our Week 15 picks. Talked about the MVP. Talked about the Bucks' identity. Lamar Jackson. This was a phenomenal show, man. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, Max, thanks for having me on, dude, as always.
And so when we get into these games throughout the week, I'm going to have to be texting you here. We only had what, 2 disagreements last week?
Yeah, no, we're pretty much agreeing on a bunch of stuff. So one week, maybe in playoff time, we'll start disagreeing on more stuff.
Yeah, well, I think you and I think very similarly when it comes to this type of
Yeah.
stuff too. But yeah, so only two disagreements, and then we weren't able to record for week 14. So week 13, dude, you were on fire. I think you went what? I forget. You only missed 2 games, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and you predicted the Steelers upset. And even though I wasn't high on the Steelers, I didn't think Washington was going to beat them, and you predicted that one. So I think you're probably going to be right with a couple of these too.
Yeah, no, it's always fun predicting because like the NFL is so random that like none of us really ever know what's actually going to happen. So it's fun to look back and point out where we were right and make fun of ourselves when we were wrong.
Exactly. Jordan Foote, Sports Illustrated, Kansas City Chiefs, Inner Circle. It is always a pleasure to have you on. Thank you for letting me bug you at least once a week. Where can they find you on Twitter, Instagram, ask you questions, send angry mail at you? Where can they do all that?
Yeah, definitely send me angry stuff on Twitter because then I can decide whether I want to accept or decline. Hit me at Footnoted on Twitter. I am always down to argue until it gets personal, and then I'll probably just hit you with a mute and let you yell into the void. But hit me at JFoot on Instagram and Footnoted on Twitter. I'm always down to chat.
Before I let you go, you officially changed your handle, huh?
I did, dude. The first one was just such a mess, and like it was hard to explain. It was hard to write out. It like had capitals and lower cases. So my editor for the Chiefs was like, just go with Footnoted, and like it's still a play on your name. It's like makes sense for writing stuff. So just go with it, and that's what I'm going with right now.
All right, so that's officially your Twitter.
Yes, sir.
No going
yes,
back.
Yes, sir. No going back. I mean, I could, but I'm just gonna stick with it.
All right, Footnoted. Jordan Foote, thank you very much for your time. Until next week, thank you very much. Stay safe, and we'll talk soon.
Yep. Thanks, Max.